welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Nonprofit Show. We have a returning guest. Wow, Joshua, it's been a while since we've seen you, hasn't it?
It has been over 3 years, yeah.
Well, we are really excited to have you come back on to talk to us about AI and how specifically we should be thinking about this with the nonprofit sector. It's such a big topic. It's everywhere. I was watching or reading a report about the upcoming Super Bowl and just how many ads have engaged AI, or going to be talking about AI. I mean, it's like it's really the topic of the day, as it should be. But we have a little bit of a spin with the nonprofit sector, so this is going to be really a great discussion to have with you. You know, we have great discussions each and every day because we have amazing support from our partners and our sponsors. They include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Crescent Cares, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and JMT Consulting. I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. And Tony Bell, one of our other intrepid co-hosts, he and I have collaborated and co-authored on a book called The Architecture of Fundraising. It's a great read. It's a great tool, and you can find it on Amazon. Okay, Joshua, meet the moment. Whew, great concept and name, but what do you do?
My co-founder, Kim Snyder, and I have worked together for over 30 years in the nonprofit sector. And we started Meet the Moment in July of 2025. Essentially, the name refers to two things. Number one is the political and financial environment in which nonprofits find themselves with the current federal administration, which hopefully is temporary. And the second is the major changes that are happening because of artificial intelligence in a whole range of ways. And not only do we not think those changes are temporary, but we think that they are going to accelerate and continue to be have a major impact on all of our lives. So Meet the Moment is here to try to help nonprofits meet this moment through effective use of artificial intelligence and governance of technology. And that's what we do.
Wow. I love it. I love that phrase, governance of technology, because, wow, that's a huge issue. And especially in the nonprofit sector where we deal with some dicey topics and privacy and people's money. And I could go on and on and on. But let's drill down into that, because what is it that are some of these challenges that AI is bringing to our sector? What is it that you're seeing or that we should be seeing?
Well, I think most people are probably to some degree sick of AI because it's in the news so much and it's in our face all the time. And on the other hand, many of us are using it and many of us think we need to use it more and better and all those things. So I'm not going to talk about a lot of, I think, the things that people are normally used to, which is how cool are the things that it can do and the disruptions it may cause us in terms of job displacement and changing the way that we work, the way that we market, all of those other things. What I am going to talk about is the governance challenges. And governance, I'm glad you love the word, Julia, because
I do.
Lots of people find it kind of boring. And unfortunately, what we're seeing with a lot of nonprofits, and one of the ways in which we really try to help them, is that a kind of lack of governance maturity around things like, let's say, learning and development, helping your staff learn new technologies and new skills, getting policies in place, like, making sure staff understand what they are and aren't supposed to do with AI, what AI tools they're supposed to use, having what's referred to as data classification and handling, meaning an understanding and a clear policy around what data is allowed to be used in what ways and in what systems in your organizations. And even something as basic as like vendor risk, meaning when we say, let's start using, Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, how do we assess the risk that may pose to our organization so that we can make an effective decision? These are things that nonprofits ideally would have always been doing, better than most of them are doing it now. But artificial intelligence is forcing this to the front, Julia, because as they grapple with adopting AI, they're bumping into their inability to deal with these things because of this kind of governance lack of maturity that so many of them have.
Mhm. It's such an interesting thing that you just said. I was last year visiting a very large nonprofit, very large, and their IT guy who was on site for most of the week, had said no use of AI until we get this figured out. And so the office part that I was in, I noticed that everybody had laptops, and they had brought their laptops because they were using AI, and then they were just cutting and pasting into their system because they didn't want to wait. And it was fascinating because it was very early on. So I'll give everybody that. But even these folks had figured out we need this tool, it can help us, but they didn't understand the ramifications. And nobody understood the ramifications. It hadn't been discussed. I didn't understand the ramifications, but I could observe, like, holy cow, this is a big thing. It was like shocking to me.
An analogy that we have, Julia, around that kind of thing, like trying to just say no, or blocking it, is water at the top of a mountain, which is, water is going to come down the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can all understand that water, when it is where we want it and managed in the way that we want it, is incredibly useful and valuable to us, right? The boiling water in my tea kettle and the warm water in my bathtub, fantastic. That same boiling water being poured on my head, or that warm bathtub water in my living room, total disasters, right? And so what we kind of pose to nonprofits is, look, the water is coming and it's going down the mountain. Right. Give it a place to go, direct it, channel it, harness it. Then it's going to work with you and for you. If you try to block it, it's going to find another way, and you're probably not going to like it very much.
Yeah, I love that. And we can all understand that. We can all relate to it. So let's talk about specifically the nonprofit sector, and what you see as more of a group working together on these issues. And I ask this question because we have so many different sizes of nonprofits. And then, of course, we have nonprofits doing different things. But at the end of the day, we have about 1.8 million nonprofits registered in this country. So how do we take a community approach, or what is even that a good value?
So one of the reasons I think that AI and community is so critical, we can start at the individual level, Julia. So within an organization like this organization that you've described, if they are not supporting AI, or even saying, like, we don't want people to use it, then what typically happens is you have the kind of highly conscientious people who say, okay, I'll follow the rules, I'm not going to use it. But a lot of people, not out of maliciousness, want to use AI to try to help get their work done because they find it to be a very useful tool and additional capability. But because the organization isn't supporting it, they wind up doing it by themselves, and it becomes a little silo in the organization. So you, Julia, may be doing like amazing things with AI at the nonprofit that you and I both work at that I could benefit from, but you're not going to share them with me because you're worried that you're not supposed to be doing it. And if I'm doing anything that might be useful to you, same thing, I'm not going to share it. So the organization doesn't benefit because they're not getting people to share learning and information. Expand that out to between organizations, and the same problem. As an organization, we're not sure what are good practices here, what are innovative practices here, what's possible with this technology. Like, we're on Copilot from Microsoft, but is Claude better? Is Gemini better? If so, why? Who tells me? And trying to learn. I cannot emphasize enough that artificial intelligence is just a weird and totally unusual technology that is unlike anything any of us have ever encountered. So trying to figure it out on your own as an individual, or even as an organization, to me, is setting yourself up for a much, much bigger challenge than you need to. Get out in community so that you can both teach and learn and collaborate with other people, because it's changing so fast.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that that is so true. Is that, that old adage, you don't know what you don't know. So when you go out into the work environment and you still have the same tasks or you have the same momentum, and yet you're trying to figure out, how do I get out from under this boulder? Very few nonprofit folks would say, "Oh yeah, I've got time to burn."
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everybody in the nonprofit sector is like, I'm under resourced.
Yeah.
I've got too many tasks at the end of the day that remain unfinished. So it's an interesting aspect to kind of step back for a moment and say, okay, how are we going to be more thoughtful as opposed to just plug in the holes? But I think that's a mindset, right?
It is. And it's been true forever, Julia. We have something, there's a cartoon, we didn't make it, we did an updated version of it, of two sort of cave people with a cart with square wheels on it, and the cart's full of rocks. Have you ever seen this, Julia? This comic? Yeah. And they're pushing and they're sweating and they're like, whatever. And in the meantime, there's two people standing there with round wheels, kind of saying, these might be helpful to you. And they're like, sorry, we're too busy. We've got too many rocks to move. And Kim and I, my co-founder, call this the square wheel paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And we all experience this in different ways, where we have some sense that, like, I am doing work that could be done more efficiently and better, but that would mean I have to stop doing the work and learn a different way of doing it. And by the way, that might not turn out to be better. Right. So then I'll just have more rocks in my cart. And I think people are so afraid of kind of getting buried, as you said, by the boulders, right? Yeah. That it is, as you say, so hard, right, to take time away and say, let's look at how we do things and see if we can learn it better. But I really will encourage people that artificial intelligence, used well and learned well, can pay such incredible dividends in getting you time back and giving you capabilities that you just simply didn't have before. And whether we'll talk about those in any depth or not, Julia, but
it's an interesting thing, Joshua, because in an industry, in a sector where things are moving so quickly, a lot of our nonprofits literally deal with life and death issues. It's really a luxury, or there's a sense of it being a luxury, to step back and take time to think, because we're so used to being reactive. I mean, it's a new behavior, I think, for a lot of us in the sector. So let me ask you this question, because it kind of meets the moment, if you will, of making a decision to use your business name. How do we assess if we're ready, how we're going to use it? Like, where do we go? Because I think this has got to be one of those, it's the beginning of the new year. There are a lot of organizations thinking, okay, now is the time that we need to make decisions and what we're going to do. But where do we start? How do we figure this out?
So we have a readiness assessment, which I'd be happy to share with folks. They can reach out to me or come to our website at mtm.now. And we have a number of other tools, but I will encourage any nonprofit leader or staff person with any influence who's listening to this to say, whether you are ready or not, I will argue does not matter right now. Artificial intelligence is happening, and it is happening incredibly fast. And one way or another, as an organization, you have to deal with it. Again, the water is coming down the mountain, and if you don't want to just have it flood you, you're going to have to figure something out as to what you want to do with it. So the question more becomes, like, where are we now, like a current state, right? And maybe that current state is half of your staff are using artificial intelligence on their own, on personal models, on their personal laptops, and that's our current state. And you know what? That has to be okay, right? Because that's where you are.
It's reality.
It's reality.
It's reality.
Yeah. But to say we're not ready is I mean, I don't want to be ungenerous to people, but it's disingenuous, because I don't know what you mean if half your staff are already using it. right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to say we're not ready to do AI yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you are, right, I think at a minimum, you need to have a policy that states what you want staff to do and not do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the simplest thing, Julia, that we encourage organizations is to use the artificial intelligence that you already have that is already part of your protected data environment. I
Okay.
doubt there's a single nonprofit here that isn't either using Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 as their primary office platform, right? For
Great.
email, documents, etc. Each of those, Microsoft has Copilot,
Mm-hmm.
Google has Gemini, and also a tool called Notebook LM. Use the one that's in your workspace. I'm actually doing a webinar for a partner called Roundtable Technology. You may remember, Julia, I used to work there,
Yeah. Yeah.
along with a company called Whole Whale on this, coming up later this month, I believe, or maybe it's March 5th. March 5th, we're doing this this webinar. So we'll be doing that. And talking about using those existing platforms. So that's the easiest thing is tell your staff, hey, use the thing that's already here, that already has the same data protection as your
Yeah.
Gmail and your documents and everything, right? And
That's
then
smart.
if you want to do something else, if you are someone and you're like, I have a business need to use Gemini, right? Even though we're a Microsoft shop, or
Mm-hmm.
use Anthropic's Claude because this Claude code stuff is just so cool. I need to be able to use it. Then fine, make a business case, have some process at your organization to do that so that you can respond to those people. And the last thing is, for God's sakes, train staff and give them an environment to continuously learn and share what they're doing with AI, how they're using it, what's working, what's failing, what's not working, so that your organization can continuously learn together, right, how to use this amazing, scary, weird technology that we all now have access to.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I'm sorry, I spoke over you. Say that again.
Oh, I said end of my TED talk. Sorry, that was a bit of a rant. So
No, it's really good. And I have never heard anyone. The security issue is very nebulous. Everybody, bandying about the fear factor of all this, but I have never heard anyone align it to those two major platforms at a minimum to start there and put everybody on the same page, if you will. I think that's really smart. That's just a good basic thing that everybody can buy into, because I think the other big issue of this, Joshua, is that we are now in a labor force, in a work society that is work from home, and nonprofits have always sent their people out in the field as well. So they're used to working off of, a kitchen table, a coffee shop, the front seat of their car, whatever, right? So that just adds another layer into all of this when we talk about security. So I really appreciate you just pulling us back a little bit and saying, at a minimum, look to what your general operating system is. I think that's really smart, because that's very achievable.
There's a term in cybersecurity. Last time I was on the show, even though I was starting to focus more and more on AI, even over 3 years ago, Julia, I was, if you recall, primarily doing cybersecurity, which is still a huge part of my work, is cybersecurity and data privacy, which is another thing we do at Beat the Moment. There's a term, right, called shadow IT in cybersecurity. And you and I, Julia, are both of a generation, right, that practiced the earliest form of shadow IT. I'm guessing you did this in your life, which is back before you could really work from home, right? But we had computers and networks and email, right? And I wanted to work on a report on the weekend, and I knew that there was no way to do that because the office would be closed, and there was no remote access or anything like that. There was no cloud, right?
Right.
I would email the file to my personal AOL or CompuServe or MindSpring account or whatever it was. This was pre-Gmail, right? So that I could work on it from home. That is shadow IT. Again, not malicious, right? Just trying to get work done, but working around the constraints that the organization has either tried to place in front of you or is inadvertently placed by not providing a means for you to do it, right? So if you and I, Julia, were willing to email things to ourselves, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, just to get work done.
Yeah.
And like people today, I'm going to use my AI on my personal phone to get work done.
Yeah.
That's so easy. And the AI is so useful. It's no question it's going to happen. So give the water a place to go. I keep saying it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I love that you brought that moment back around, because I think that, we also have a labor force that wants to get stuff done. And we want to, we're not just working the 9 to 5 at the office that we commute to, right? I mean, we're doing things sandwiched in between all different manner of our daily lives. And so I appreciate you bringing this up, because I feel like the way our work style is, it's adding a complication to this, especially if you're doing anything with a client base that might have medical information, that might have, judicial information, your donors, and all of the financial data that you collect. I mean, we're talking about a sector that has access to a lot of data that's can get wonky really quickly and sideways, right?
And I'm doing a presentation on cybersecurity actually for a bunch of CFOs next week with an insurance person out of the insurance industry, the cyber liability. And nonprofits are currently about out of 18 sectors roughly within the U.S. Economy, as the cyber liability insurance carriers describe them. Nonprofits are the 6th most targeted sector, right? They are considered by cyber criminals really juicy targets for exactly the reasons you've said. They have lots of sensitive information. They have, many of them, insurance, so they can pay $500,000, $1 million claims or ransom demands or extortion demands, and they don't have great security as a rule.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. I'm thrilled that you're still discussing this and helping us all navigate this, because it's such a huge topic. And I feel, Joshua, and as we wind up, I feel like the mystery of AI has not really moved towards the discussion of security as much, right? And when you upload that data to get a sexy report, where's that information going? Because it's cool. I mean, I think to start with, can you edit this and make it sound more flirty, or can you make it sound more scholarly, or whatever voice attribute that you give to the text? That's one thing. But I think the human spirit is such that once you start seeing success and you're like, holy moly, that tool really helped me. What can it do with this spreadsheet? What can it do? Because you can just upload all this stuff. And so I feel like that's one of the issues that has yet to be discovered or discussed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's getting talked about a lot, and I think it's front and center in a lot of nonprofits' mind, and why they don't feel ready to use AI yet, right? For some of those reasons. When you work in the sort of risk space, right, you think of risks and opportunities or benefits, right, as kind of things we're trying to weigh, right, to figure out how. I don't know if people can see my hands on the camera, but and so what nonprofits, I think, in many respects are doing, but in error, in my opinion, is saying we're not ready to do this because we're not ready to take on the risk of AI. And the reason I say it's error is for all the things we've talked about, Julia. The risk is already happening. The water is coming down the hill. Your staff are using it. So in my view, by kind of putting off policies and training and intentionality around how we're going to adopt and use AI at our nonprofit, you're actually still accepting all of the risk that you were in theory trying to avoid, but you're simply missing out on the opportunities. And arguably the risk is even worse because you're not managing it, right? You're not directing the water somewhere. Whereas if you can decide with intention what it is you want to do, right, with artificial intelligence, then we can start managing the risk. So let me make this as tangible as I can in response to your question. let's say, we're worried that staff are going to put a bunch of client information that has sensitive details about their homes and addresses and phone numbers into AI. So we say no AI yet. Well, what are staff doing, Julia? They're doing exactly what you said. They're putting it into whatever free tool or personal tool they use. That may, right, be getting used to retrain these models, and in effect is a data breach.
Yeah.
Because now that data, that spreadsheet of 1,000 donors and names that someone uploaded to their free ChatGPT account is now part of OpenAI's training model forever.
Right.
Okay. Whereas if you had, as an organization a year ago or tomorrow, if you haven't done it yet, right, said, hey, we're a Microsoft shop, and anything that is in Microsoft already, if it's in OneDrive, if it's in SharePoint, it's fine to use with Copilot, because that's all protected. That's part of our license. We're already paying for it, right? But don't go use it with anything else. But that way you, Julia, my staff person, can use AI and get benefits from it. So you don't have to go out and use some free tool that you have, right? And it's protected. But by saying, oh, we're not ready to do that yet, we're not ready to take on that risk, you think you're avoiding it, but you're not, right? Not. Julia, you're just going to go take that 1,000 pages and put it in something else. And I just have to hope that it's protected. But hope is not a strategy.
No, it is not. It is not. No, it is not. Well, this has been fascinating. I have really enjoyed this. Joshua Peskay's come back to us after a 3-year hiatus. I'm just thrilled that you're doing this work. You can learn more about Meet the Moment at mtm.now, N-O-W. Joshua, you mentioned about midway through the show that you had some resources. Talk to us again about how we can access those.
Sure. If you go to mtm.now, at the top of our page, you'll see a resources section where we're adding things all the time. Some of the things you'll find there are a trolley problem, which helps nonprofits think about different ethical trade-offs of implementing or not implementing artificial intelligence to help with things. We have something called an Eco AIQ. Many staff are concerned about the environmental impact of AI systems. So we have a way that you can explore, like, if I run my dishwasher, how does that relate to like AI use? How many times could I go use AI to have the same environmental impact as running my dishwasher, just so you can think about that. And we have and we have an AI safety guide. We have, I think, 16 applications that are currently registered there that we perform evaluations of, not their functionality, just their security, their privacy. We give them a rating of 0 to 100, from their free plans up to their enterprise plans. So if you're debating, like, what's the safety and security of this tool, you can use that, and we welcome feedback on that. We've got a bunch of other stuff there as well.
I love it. Well, it's such a great way to, just by looking at those resources, that in itself can help you start the conversation to be like, holy moly, this is what we need to be thinking about, let alone just, willy-nilly going after this. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really fun. I learned a lot, and I think you really got me thinking about some new things. So thank you.
Well, kudos to you for having me on, 3 years and change ago, before really anyone was talking about AI, Julia. You and I were talking about AI. I went back and rewatched that, and I was shocked. I was talking about, I thought it was going to come, and I thought it was going to come fast. It came so much faster and is so much of a bigger deal than even I thought at that time. I would have thought my error would be being hyperbolic, and I wasn't hyperbolic enough, as it turns out. So thanks for having me back, and good luck to you and all of your watchers and listeners and audience. And thanks so much.
Well, really, you're welcome. It's been a lot of fun. Hey, when we talk about this concept with Joshua and this trajectory, we've done nearly 1,500 episodes. We're now moving into our 7th year. Most of these sponsors have been with us from the beginning, and they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, Crescent Cares, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, Fundraisers Friday, and JMT Consulting. They've been part of this amazing journey that continues moving forward with great thought leaders like Joshua Peskay. Okay, Hey, as we end each and every episode, we still use the same mantra, and it goes like this: to stay well so you can do well. See you again. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Julia. So much appreciate it. You're in a